This is Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
Things seem anxious and uncertain. I understand the hardship in faith. I wish there were other ways, but there is not. If there were,
in our quest to bring to the table issue-based conversation around nationhood and development, we have made 4 to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday the perfect time to welcome you into the Situation Room as we continue to build the narrative about public service and accountability.
Mr. President, this Senate needs to know. Mr. President, this Senate needs to lend its voice to the plight of these people. Mr. President, there is nowhere I can say it except here. This is why I'm elected. If I cannot say these things on this floor, sir, I better resign and leave.
As elections give the citizens the chance to make their political decisions, constant demand for quality leadership from those they voted into office.
Look at us, man, there is nothing, we are starving. Tinubu should please do something.
It's also important to having a Nigeria of everyone's dream. Join ᴏᴜᴜᴜ as it takes to task seasoned analysts, opinion makers, business professionals, and politicians on issues around politics, policies, governance, and leadership. Every Monday to Friday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. on your super dial, Mainland 98.3 FM will welcome you roommates as we discuss the situations.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. Good afternoon to you, or good evening, good morning, whatever part of the world you are listening to us from. It's always a pleasure to be on radio with you, conversing with you, sharing ideas, talking about the state of the nation, and ultimately trying to find solutions to all of the many problems that unfortunately bedevil us as a country. Aside from talking about our problems, we also highlight the good things, the things that are going right, the government officials that are doing things the way they should do it. So it's not just about talking about problems, it's also highlighting the little wins that we've been able to put together as a nation. Well, as long as it is a situation in the country, best believe on this program we would definitely create a dialogue around it. Once again, welcome to the program. My name is Sage Babalola. The Situation Room is Mondays through to Fridays from 4 p.m. all the way to 5:30 p.m. That's 90 minutes of conversation, 90 minutes of picking the brains of experts across different sectors, and also giving you an opportunity to speak to the issues and maybe even have conversations with the experts, create new perspectives, set the agenda the way it should be set, amongst the many other exciting things that we do on the program. Well, today is not going to be any different from all the other episodes, of course, only that we're talking about a different conversation. But then when it comes to quality, when it comes to educating the public, when it comes to having conversations, and when it comes to giving you a platform to air your mind, I can assure you that objective remains the same across all the episodes that air on this station. It is the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, and we will be talking about one situation in the country this evening. But before I go on ahead to introduce my topic for conversation, well, here on Mainland FM, we all work together. Our programs are in continuum, if I can say that. And during the conversation this afternoon, midweek politics, a lot of you called in, sent messages wanting to get an idea about some of the universities that have benefited from the NEL Fund initiative, but unfortunately time did not allow the crew to give you the list of that university, and so I took it upon myself that very briefly, before we get into the primary conversation of the day, I will do you the favor of giving you the list of universities that have benefited from the federal government student loan scheme, and we can assure you soon enough we will bring that conversation in itself back to radio. We'll have a conversation about the student loan scheme, the amount of money that has been disbursed, the beneficiaries, the sustainability plan for that initiative, amongst many other things. Today is just not that day, but then you asked for the list of universities, and that is exactly what I would give to you before we segue to the primary conversation for this evening. Well, according to NEL Fund, it was posted on the official X handle. I'm talking Twitter, as you all know it. 19 universities have benefited so far from the student loan scheme of the federal government, and these universities include the University of Maiduguri, the University of Ibadan, Also, the University of Ilorin. We have the University of Benin, the Federal University Dutsinma, that's in Katsina State. We have Bayero University in Kano. Also, the Federal College of Education, Abeokuta, the Federal University of Technology in Minna. Obafemi Awolowo University Ile-Ife is also a beneficiary. The Federal Polytechnic in Ilaro has also benefited from the student loan scheme. The University of Lagos, of course, the University of Jos, the Federal College of Education Technical Gusau. We also have the University in Dutse, that's the Federal University. Also, the Federal University in Benin Kebbi and Madibo Adama University in Adamawa State, Federal Polytechnic in Bauchi, the Federal Polytechnic Mubi, and the total number of students from these 19 institutions that have benefited from the student loan scheme are 27,667, with the total amount of money being disbursed is well over 2 billion naira. So those are the list of 19 universities that have benefited from the student loan scheme. Those are the amount of students that have benefited, about 27,000 of them, and about 2 billion so far, over 2 billion has been dispensed. I told you we'll still bring that conversation back, but I see that a lot of you spend time requesting for the list of universities against the backdrop of accusations that have been leveled against the stakeholders of that particular initiative that a certain region has not benefited. Well, they've explained that the universities in that region, the southeast region, if we're being precise, have not submitted the student list. They've not registered, and so there's no way they can benefit from an initiative that they have not registered for. Well, that's that about that particular conversation. Now to the primary conversation for today. On the Situation Room, we're talking about fundamental human rights as the dialogue for the day. In fact, we will be reviewing the principles of security operations and human rights in Nigeria. That is what we're focusing on for today. Let's talk about human rights. Femi Falana had quite a lot to say about 2 days ago, right? He had so much to say about security operations in the country and also the breach of fundamental human rights in the country. More or less how we can rectify the alien relationship between the security agencies in the country and also the people that they're meant to protect. Well, I will be joined by somebody who's very familiar with the law that would help us really understand what that relationship should look like. But before I bring my guest on board, of course, I did tell you that human rights activist and senior advocate of Nigeria, SAN, Femi Falana, in a recent report urged the Nigeria Bar Association to adopt measures to end the illegal arrest and detention of innocent citizens by the police and other law enforcement agencies in the country. It is sadly no news that unfortunately Nigeria is known for human rights violations. From its years of military authoritarianism, which witnessed the killing of several human rights activists, and even now, since we returned to democracy, the country's human rights narrative has not changed. We have some government authorities and law enforcement agents, the police, for example, who sometimes frequently engage in various human rights violations, torture, ill treatment of no-crime suspect, forced evictions, interference with the rights of peaceful assembly and freedom of association, and all forms of alleged violence across different regions of the country. And this has created a very worrisome threat to lives, and sadly, it has deepened the mistrust that is between security agents and those that they are meant to protect. Now, the government, on one hand, seems to be grappling with the situation. There's a measure of friction, right, between the activities of security agencies and human rights in the country. And it's against this backdrop that pertinent questions are going to be asked on the program today. How well can security agencies operate without infringing on the fundamental human rights, and the probable mechanisms that we need to adopt by the security agencies that would not cause them to abuse human rights in Nigeria? Well, for this conversation this evening, we would have the pleasure of speaking with Barrister Tunde Esson, someone who's quite familiar with the law. He is a legal practitioner and also the founding partner at Lexagon Practice. It's a pleasure to have you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on your program.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate
much.
it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your time. So let's get into the conversation because we have a lot of things to talk about. And I'll start like this. This is a list of names that I will provide. Bolanle Rahim, Gafaru Buraimo, Toba Adedeji, Paul Drowaye, Emmanuel Joseph, ᴜᴜᴜ Abayomi, and many more. These names will seem very random, barrister, but they're not. This is a list of individuals that have been victims of senseless shootings by security operatives. A lot of these cases are still in court, of course, but I needed to start like that these individuals have names, they have families, they have people that care about them, people who are now mourning because of a painful encounter that these persons had with security agencies. We do have different security agencies in the country that are meant to address specific security circumstances. And now, for example, we involve the army in civil matters. The police, some police officers have appointed themselves judge, jury, and executioner. So I'm trying to understand what exactly are the core functions of the police and why have they, in a way, commandeered the responsibility of other agencies?
You know, the names you have mentioned,
yes,
we have to thank God we even have names. There are loads of others who are falling through the cracks without names. As sad as the names we've mentioned and the circumstances of their death, you know, you were even lucky that we have names to work with. There are loads of others who are falling victim, you know, of the oppression in society without any name. So they were just, you know, like Coca-Cola bottles without name, another person dead, and life goes on. That is how sad it is. So we ask ourselves, why do we allow this to happen? Is it that the police is not very sure of its functions? Does it not realize that it's governed by laws, rules, and regulations? That it cannot just turn itself into an oppressive agency? What is it in our system that makes people believe that they can do anything and there's no accountability and there's no repercussion for whatever it is that they do? Especially for young people on an everyday basis. You know, you are driving and a guy stops you and he says to you, I will waste you and nothing will happen. I'm not making this sense of, you know that these things exist. A police officer will look at you and will say to you that I will waste your life and nothing will happen. What kind of society allows that to happen? What kind of a society gives that police officer the confidence to talk that way? And truly, he may just waste another person's life and nothing comes out of it. And I think those are the questions that we will address during this interview today. So, to your question specifically, what are the functions of the police? Basically, to prevent crime, to maintain law and order, to ensure that there is sanity in society, according to the law setting it up, and according to the Constitution, not arbitrarily. So if you're going to maintain law and order, how do you maintain law and order when you yourself, you are the epitome of lawlessness? And that is the, I hope we're able to get to that point where we say, what has caused all of this? And how do we stop all of this? So you ask yourself, the primary function of the police, maintain law and order, prevention of crime, and just those basic functions that makes a sane society function well. That's it.
Well,
nothing more than that.
Barrister, you mentioned something that even in preventing crime and maintaining law and order, there are guidelines that these individuals are supposed to follow. So let's talk about guidelines, Barrister Tundeson. The Nigerian Constitution, who tortures, or any security operative that tortures a person for information, in fact, that particular act provides that all interrogations or interviews by the police be videotaped. So therefore, Barrister, you will start to wonder if the interview was conducted by Muhammad Ali. So talk to us. What exactly is expected during an interview or interrogation by the police? Also, should there be legal representation for that suspect in the room that can also ensure that as much as you're interviewing and looking for information, you are the right of that individual, the right of that suspect is protected?
So let's go back to the ground norm. Now, when we talk about ground norm, we're talking about the supreme law in the land. And that is your Constitution.
Right.
And Section 1.3 of the Constitution is very clear that any law that does not accord with the Constitution is null and void to the extent of inconsistency. So that supreme law says that if you look at Chapter 4, a whole chapter is dedicated to your fundamental rights. It is a whole chapter. Chapter 4 of that Constitution is dedicated to your fundamental rights. It talks about your right to life. It talks about your right to freedom from inhuman and degrading treatment. All of those things are contained there. You know, so we've never lacked in laws. You have loads and loads and loads of laws. You have loads and loads of conventions. You have loads and loads of treaties that says that this is the way human beings should be treated. And that your fundamental rights, even when they are violated, they are violated for a good reason. And those reasons are provided for in the Constitution itself. If I'm going to derogate from I can't derogate from your right to life. unless I'm dealing with some certain situation. So in the situation where I can, by some extent, derogate from your fundamentals, they are stated. So the question I keep asking myself is, when all of, and you know, I mean, you've been here for a while and for a long time, it's not about laws. We have plenty laws. Nigeria has never lacked for laws. We've never lacked for laws protecting our. In fact, I will give you an example. When we had the military in place, you know, whether you're talking about Obasanjo's first coming or the last guy that left Abdulsalami and all of that, under these various military regimes, the Chapter 4 was preserved. That would tell you how important it is. You know, the first thing you have in a military regime is what they call suspension and modification of the Constitution. The first thing they do is to suspend the Constitution. I mean, that's how they're able to operate by decree. Even when they suspend these constitutions, you know what they do? They preserve Chapter 4 dealing with your fundamental rights. So it's never been about law. But what is that thing that gives that officer the right to say, you know what, I know you have the Police Act itself. It states clearly what the duties, what the function of the police is. But the question you ask yourself, what is that that gives them the confidence that, okay, I can beat all of those laws, including the Constitution, and you know what? Nothing's going to happen. So we can go back to all the laws, begin to pick them one after the other, start with the Constitution, go to the Police Act, talk about this, talk about a million and one things. But the question is, what's that thing that gives that guy the confidence that even if I breach this law, even if I derogate from fundamental rights of the citizen, nothing will happen? That's the point we need to get to. So you're talking about how it should be theoretically. So you start, you meet a citizen, you know, you have a right of arrest and all of that and all of that.
Yes.
Even this right of arrest, you need a warrant, don't you need a warrant? All these things are stated in the Police Act. When you can arrest someone with a warrant, when you can't arrest someone with a warrant, let's say you've arrested a guy, what you do is to take him to the station. I assume that before you arrest him, unless he is caught committing a crime, you've conducted your investigation. But let's say at the scene of the crime, you can arrest this guy without a warrant, take him to the police station. You have the Administration of Justice Act as well as the one in Lagos State and other states. What do you do with him? The first thing you say to him is that he doesn't have to say anything, so that he doesn't implicate himself. He's not a lawyer. So the first thing is that, guy, keep quiet. You don't have to say anything because anything you say can be used against you. So what you've given him is the right to keep quiet. Now, he gets to the police station, you begin to torture him. After telling him that he has his right to keep quiet, you see the contradiction from the very start.
Right.
I said to you, you don't have to say anything. I know you're not a lawyer. I know you're not versed in the law. I don't want you to say anything that will implicate you. Wait for your lawyer to come. Wait for somebody who understands what you are going through to come so he can guide you right. But immediately gets to the police station, the first thing is a slap, the next thing is a knock, the next thing is, you load him inside the cell. But you've told him he doesn't have to say anything. Meanwhile, the next thing, you are pushing people after him to say everything that he knows about the crime. So go to the next step. So he must have he should have legal representations provided for by the Act. In fact, it was video recorded. So it's not a question of it was torture to make a statement. Everybody will see for a fact that this statement was made voluntarily. So you have all those checks and balances in place. Again, who obeys the checks and balances? It's never been about the law. In fact, I think Nigeria is one of the countries where you have a lot of these checks, a lot of these balances that will protect anybody who's brought. Because at the end of the day, what do we say in Nigeria? What type of law do we practice? What kind of system do we practice? We say that a man is presumed innocent until you find him guilty. So it doesn't matter how heinous the allegations are. He's still innocent. But you know the way we do, you pick a man and you begin to investigate after picking him. You've not done any investigation. You pick him, you've not done anything, you lock him up. Now you run to a magistrate and you say, oh, I've not concluded my investigation. Can I have 14 days more? Can I have 1 month more? Can I have... So you are walking to the answer. And in walking to the answer, it's made to go. I mean, how does that work? It's never been about the law for me. I'll tell you for free. Anything about Nigeria has never been about the law. We have too many laws. I think the laws are even too many. But the question is, when these laws are breached by those who should preserve the law, what happens?
What happens indeed?
What happens?
If you're just joining the program, this is the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. We're talking or trying to review the principles of security operations and human rights in Nigeria. My name is Sage Babalola. We're talking here with Barrister Tunde Eson, who is a legal practitioner and the founding partner at ᴏᴜᴜ Practice. We're trying to understand, in as much as security operatives are trying to carry out the responsibility of maintaining law and order, how can they do that without infringing on the fundamental human right of the citizens they have sworn to protect. Femi Falana raised this conversation a few days ago, and we decided to lend our voice to the conversation. Well, Barrister Tunde, earlier when you were speaking, you did say that there are legal safeguards against arbitrary arrest, first of all, and detention. And these mechanisms are for oversight of the police or other security agencies. And like you said, once again, the law does say that a person is presumed innocent until proven guilty. But then we see the treatment method on these suspects. It sort of reveals a pattern of what do we call this, abuse of power, right? We've seen videos of raids that are carried out at night by men who claim to be officers of the law. They're wearing regular clothes, first of all. They don't have a means of identification. They're using unbranded vehicles. They come into these houses at ungodly hours. They pack everybody that they see in the premises, whether or not you're a passerby. As long as you're within proximity, they throw you in their van. I want to understand the legality, first of all, of these raids, and also the abuse of these suspects, especially the dehumanizing practice of parading suspects. Are you supposed to do that? And also a raid, what should be the structure, when raids are conducted, and also how the individuals that are arrested during these raids are treated?
So we go back to the same thing, and you have a duty as a police officer, as an organization in the Nigerian police force, to maintain law and order, to prevent crime and all of that. Now you've come to the decision that, if you go to Oshodi on the bridge, it's a black spot. Before you can describe it as a black spot, I want to believe that you've carried out your investigation. It wasn't random. You have situations where a crime is being committed and you stop, it's being committed right there and then, and you step in to stop it, to arrest people and all of that. I understand that. But when you leave your police station and you say, I'm going to Oshodi on the bridge because I know for a fact that it's a black spot where a lot of evil things go on, criminal things go on, it's not a problem. I assume that you've conducted investigation. I assume that you know the ringleaders. And I assume that you know where you're going to. It's not that you're going to Oshodi and you get to 5-star or somewhere very close to it and that guy looks like a criminal, pick him up. No suspicion that guy has ever committed any crime.
Profiling.
Pick him up. Nothing. Just profiling. You don't even have to profile. Profiling is like you're being kind to them. It's just okay, this guy, you know what, pick him. In fact, if he's well dressed, that's the time to pick him the more, because you know that before he gets out, he will part with something in terms of, in quote, bail money, whatever that means. So the better he looks, the more opportunities you have of taking advantage of it, isn't it? Because there won't be consequences. So you get to Oshodi on the bridge, you pack everybody that you see, not just at the scene of that you have designated as a black spot. You pack everybody, the more the merrier, because the more suspects that you have, the more money you can make off them, as in quote, bail money. Now, we can all deny this. We can have female police officers deny it, but these are daily realities. These are really daily realities. So you pack like 100%, you pack like 50%, you bring them to your station, you lock them up. Believe me, most times you are not interested in taking anybody to court. What you want is, who can they call to come and bail them? And you know what that translates to. So if you get 50,000 from 100%, do your math. That's like maybe 500,000 or 5 million. My math is not the best in the world for just a night's work, not because you want to arrest anybody. So you are dealing with the law which says that if you arrest anyone and you're within a 24-kilometer radius, you have to charge him to court by latest within 24 hours. If you're within a 48-kilometer radius, you have to charge him to court within 48 hours. So you have those guys who are not able to pay, right? The ones who can pay, they pay. Their family members, they've been to your station, they bail them. Then you pack 50, you have 20 left. You don't know anybody, they can't pay anybody, they were not able to get across to anybody. So you have 20 left. Well, you have a dilemma now. Is that you charge them to court within 24 hours or you charge them to court within 48 hours. But you don't want to let them go because they were not able to give you any money. You pack them off to court. You pack them off to a magistrate court, right? They are granted bail. But even this, and now that's where we are not leaving the police when it gets to the court system itself. You grant them bail, 2 shorties, this, that. But they can't perfect the conditions of bail. People don't even know that they have been arrested. They can't perfect the conditions. You come up with trump-up charges, possession of this, possession of that. You saw Indian hemp with them, you saw this with them. Things that are just made up. and the court grants them bail. They are not able to meet the condition of bail. You know what happens? You ship them off to Ṱūɪṛ, you ship them off to Ikoyi, you ship them off to Badagry Correctional Center. And they're there for 1 year, for 2 years, for 5 years, for 6 years, awaiting trial. What kind of a system? Seriously, what? On to the next one. On to the next one. So you pick a guy, maybe a student, coming back from school at 7:30, or is going to hawk for the father in order to sustain himself. He's 17 years old. After school, he's gone to Oshodi to sell whatever he sells. You pick him up from there to a police station. The parents are not able to raise 20,000, 50,000, whatever sum you're asking for. 48 hours is before a magistrate. Later that day, he's found himself in Ṱūɪṛ or Ikoyi prison, and is there for the next 4 or 5 days. What kind of a system enables that?
Well, that's the answer. I'm actually glad because your responses sort of usher us into the next questions, making my job very easy. Because many human rights activists, just like you, right, who care about the rights of individuals, they have lamented the breach of suspects' fundamental right to personal liberty, to dignity, to fair hearing, which is the primary conversation here. Femi Falana, for example, he advised the NBA to direct members of the Human Rights Committee and also the 128 branches to accompany magistrates on monthly visits to police stations, prisons in the country. Barrister Tunde, the prisons are overcrowded and they're filled with individuals that are awaiting trial. For example, Punch newspaper, in a publication on the 17th of August, I believe, they published that there are no fewer than 57,000 persons across the 244 correctional centers in the country that are still awaiting trial. And this is data from the Nigeria Correctional Center. It wasn't conjured from anywhere. The question I'm building to was, in what ways can we re-emphasize the nexus between the operations of security agents and the judicial arm of government, and also how we can expedite civil court cases?
I think at the end of the day, where as a people, impunity reigns supreme. There's lack of accountability. If we deal with those two things, believe me, Nigeria will become one of the greatest countries in the world. Lack of impunity and accountability. Now, I'll tell you why I said that. Okay. So there's a provision of the law in the administration of criminal justice, law of Lagos State, as well as the Act generally, which says that a magistrate, if there's a police station within your domain, as a magistrate, you have a duty to go there from time to time to do a chore. I say, what's happening here? Why is this person paying? Now ask yourself, how many magistrates perform that function in Lagos State? How many magistrates will a magistrate leave our office and go to the police station next to our court to say, oh, what's going on here? I have the power to do this and all of that. Abdication of responsibility. I'm not even talking of when. Let me give you a real life example. I was before a magistrate. Real life story. I was before a magistrate. What was the charge? All these people who do outdoor advertising. I mean, for those of you in the media, I think that's what you call it, outdoor advertising, when you place all this large billboard, and you have workmen help you place all those things. So when they were done placing the outdoor billboard, there was a sellotape left. Sellotape for 1,000 naira left. One of the guys that worked there took the sellotape, and the next thing, he was arrested by the company that employed him to help fix the billboard, and it was tried to court for stealing, for this, for that, and all of that. The magistrate was really deeply upset. I said, so you've detained this guy for 48 hours because what? You allege that it's told. Sellotape as in sellotape.
Yeah, tape.
And the guy said, no, I didn't steal. We were done. This was what was left of the cell. We were asked to clean the place and throw them away. And I thought this would be useful to me. I didn't steal it. You could feel the pain of the lawyers. You could feel the pain of the magistrate. What kind of a DPO ask an IPO to come to court and file such charges against the person? What drives such mindset? What drives such mindset? And when people are brought to court, is that something we can do better? Because when you know for a fact, if you're listening to to the charges as a sitting magistrate, for instance, because most of those cases will go to the magistrate court, at the high court level,
Yeah.
most of the people involved, they have the money to get lawyers and all of that. They will be the poorest amongst us. We go to the magistrate court, all those little crimes and all of that. When a guy says something like that, as a magistrate, can you give bail in self-recognition? To say, you know what? Go home. So if he doesn't come back because he has stolen a tape, so be it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why are you making the conditions of bail so onerous? Can you make the conditions of bail so lax that anybody can make it? You know the way it goes. Somebody is granted bail. The court rules at let's say the court rules at 3 p.m. The magistrate is going on. She's not going to stay behind to say, "Oh, go and verify the shorty. Go and do this." She is going on, and you might not perfect that bail until a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, a year later. But does it work? How does it really work? How do we sit here at NBA and we ask ourselves, okay, what do we even do at NBA? What do we do as lawyers? What do we do as lawyers? Really? I mean, you remember the days of Aka Alao Bashorun, when we had the NBA president, who were handsome, who were involved, who battled military dictatorship with their very lives. But, we now have how many NBA centers all over, branches all over the country. What do we do as NBA executives? What do we do as lawyers? How our pro bono practices. That is when a lawyer says, this person is poor. You can see. I will take it upon myself. I will take it upon myself to do your case. How active? I mean, most lawyers are now multimillionaires now. They're wealthy. What will it cost to just say, you know what? On my watch, I'm going to have 10, 20, 30 pro bono cases. I will take this upon myself. Especially for cases that you can see clearly that this is injustice. Like you noted earlier on, you have maybe 70%, 75% of those who are in our correctional facilities are waiting trial. They have no business being there. But the system is such that you go to court and you see a case, it's been going on for 8 years. The guy comes from prison every day, from prison every time to the court. How do you destroy a man's life for 8 years? It's not that when he comes out and is not found guilty, or the matter is eventually struck out, and somebody's going to compensate him somewhere. It's not as if the system that has put in such a place will be censored, will be reprimanded. No. And that's what I keep saying. You see, if we have this for the next 1 year, what I will keep saying is that what is it in us that allows us to be this nothing will happen kind of attitude? Do you get what I'm saying? It's just a comfort, a confidence that, you see, nothing will happen. The policeman shoots dead somebody, the trial probably takes the next 20 years, right?
Right.
It takes the next 20 years. There was this young lady, I can't recall the name now, that was shot somewhere in Ajah. You remember, under the bridge with the husband.
That's Bolanle Rahim.
Yes. What? Okay. Call any random lawyer and say, give me an update on what has happened. I'm sure that 99.9% of us do not know. We move on. We have this capacity to just move on. And I think our politicians get away with everything because they know that, it's just the flavor of the day. It's the story of the day. The news cycle is so fast that next day we're dealing with some text. Nobody follows up. Ask yourself, the NBA, even as private practitioners, what do we do? The legal aid council being set up by the state, how many cases do they take up? So you have lawyers from the Ministry of Justice who are in the what do they call it, Office of Public Defender, OPDs and all of that. How many cases do they take on? And what are the criteria for taking on these cases for the poorest of the poor?
We're streaming the program live on Facebook. You can join our live stream on Facebook at facebook.com/Mainland 98.3 FM. We're also on YouTube, Mainland 98.3 FM. We're having conversations about the principle of security operations and human rights in Nigeria. What is the nexus between security operations and fundamental human rights in the country? As much as you're trying to maintain law and order, how can you do that without hurting the people that you are meant to protect? That is what we're trying to understand on the program today, and Barrister Tunde Esson has graced us with his presence virtually, and we're talking about this, trying to understand what really goes on in the mind of the security agents, and also what the position of the law should be in performing something of an oversight functions when it comes to the activities of security operatives in the country. So let's have a conversation and reference the most recent events of the End Bad Governance protest. We did see see, of course, the government very resistant. They resisted the protest as much as they could. We also had statements that were being made by the NSA, for example, that particular protest, there's intelligence that it's a threat to national security and what have you. We also have some protesters that were arrested, some detained for more than 24 hours, which is against the law, by the way, unless, of course, the courts grant an extension for their detention. Thankfully, some of the protesters have been released. I need to put that out there. Some have been released. But then I want us to talk about how security officials should balance their duties with the protection of human rights. We understand that you're working on intelligence, that the gathering of these individuals in some way pose a threat to national security. So how do we ensure a balance in the execution of your duty without necessarily infringing or protecting the fundamental human right of these individuals? And I want us to also in there talk about the principles of crisis management, so that as much as you're trying to manage crisis, you are also not disregarding the rights of the people. Barrister Tunde, so help us out here.
Okay. Do you mind if I go a bit political?
Oh, please go on ahead, sir.
All right. You have a broken country, and I think that should be addressed. You have a country that is broken against tribal lines, and it's unfortunate, but that's the reality. And I will use the end bad
governance.
What was the
there's the first one. There's the NSAS, and there's end bad governance.
let's deal with the more recent one.
End bad governance.
End bad governance.
Yeah.
Obviously, the protest was along tribal lines. Oh, it was along tribal lines. So you find out that in the southeast, for instance, for certain reasons, which could be traced back to the 2023 election, it was, the president, our son, we won't allow you to burn down Lagos. In fact, it was end government, not end bad governance. And that's the truth. If you look at Lagos during NSAS, as if anybody burned down Lagos during NSAS in the recent of the what, in the north, it was more of, that the security agencies, especially the DSS, in normal protests. Of course, you have politicians trying to push their own agenda under the end. But it is normal. It's just the way it is anywhere in the world. You have all sorts of interests, coming to play. If there's a protest, it's just normal. It's human. But the question is, the security apparatus that says we have information. Now, why were they not able to nip it in the bud? If I know, for example, that a certain guy, it doesn't matter how highly placed it is conniving with people to burn down the country beyond the issue of protest. If you had the information, why didn't you act on it? They said they had the information. They knew for a fact that this was beyond the issue of hunger. But there was also the issue of hunger. You can't deny that. So you have all this in the mix. So there was a protest. The question is, irrespective of the source or the reason for the protest, do I have a right to gather and to protest? Yes, I do. The Constitution guarantees me the right to associate and to protest. But does the Constitution guarantee me the right to have a riot by taking lives? How do you balance that? How does a protest move from just a protest to a riot? Are you trained, like to use your word, where is the crisis management training in ensuring that protesters do not cross the line? And when they cross the line, that the force being used to restrain them does not involve the taking of lives. The first response can be shoot. I mean, we've seen protests in other climes. We've seen the water, what do you call this? When they have this firefighting equipment, and all of that. Why is it that the first reaction is to shoot to kill? Again, because you need to realize that people have the right to protest. You also need to admit and agree that the government has a duty to protect the citizens and the properties of the citizens. So you have that clash between national security and individual liberty. It happens all the time. It's the subject of so many discourse, many books, many articles, and all of that. How do you create a balance between civil liberties and national security? How do you draw a balance? And that's why, like the question you asked me earlier on, when you have a DSS official intervening in landlord and tenant matter,
right.
how does he have the time to do his job, which is information gathering at the local stage? The NIA man, who is supposed to deal with international part of what these guys do locally, what DSS, what they do locally? How does he have enough information on if there are foreign elements collaborating with local elements who want to burn down your country? When you have soldier boys, military guys who now join, they go to the parks, they collect money from touts, when you lose that sense of who you are, what your responsibilities are, how do you have time for your core functions? Because if you were doing your job, I'm sure that America faces crisis every day.
Yeah.
But these are nipped in the bud because you have people who are working. In fact, the work is so hard that, they don't have time for what is not their business. Now, if you have a functioning SSS, that's DSS, if you have a functioning NI, if you have a functioning Nigerian Armed Forces, working day and night, a lot of these things will be nipped in the bud. But when they are not nipped in the bud and they come to the public for, and there's a riot, you're not even trained on how to manage it. Because what should have been done first is now been left last. Because most of the things, they're not even things to make noise about. The work of the DSS when we were growing up was very quiet. You didn't know one DSS member. You didn't know that. You only heard of SSS. You remember those, the State Security Service. You remember its predecessor, or NSO, Nigeria Security Organization, and all of that. You didn't know anybody there. But now, everybody, you will see the DSS with guns everywhere, following all sorts of people around. So you're going to come to this point where, in the context, in the conflict between national security and civil liberties, there will be a clash. But if you've done what you ought to have done prior to now, you can't come to this point of the first thing, crisis management. The way you know how to manage crisis is shoot to kill. No, shoot to kill should not be the way to manage crisis. You knew that a protest was going to happen. You had 1 month notice. You had, and I can tell you who the leaders of this protest. They didn't hide, really. Unlike the MSAs, this was why you knew the guys who were leading this protest. So the question is, was it arrogance on the part of the government not to reach out? The demands were clear. Some were unreasonable, but some were reasonable. Could you just have done a bit of PR and make it seem as if, okay, I hear you, I listen to you, we're taking steps to address some of it, so that to call the sympathy of the public. But all you heard was, you know what, we will crush it. We won't allow it. We will crush it. No, you don't manage crisis that way. And we don't have officers who are trained to manage crisis. We have officers who are, you saw the red band. I don't know if you saw it. Police officers were wearing red band on their.
We covered it. We saw it. We covered it.
Oh, you guys did. Okay,
yeah, so.
So you're like, what are you saying? I'm ready to die. This is war. This is warfare. No, that's not pacified protest, I think. No, it's not. And you know what? When you had major issues in the north, anyway, you were not able to do anything. But it ran its course. People burned down what they wanted to burn down. So what's the crisis management? It's still the same KBAC mentality. I am the king. I will crush all opposition. We don't have the capacity to engage conflict. So you think this way, I think this way. Can we come together? Can we arrive at a compromise? When I have to deploy the full instrument of the state, I've been exhausted all of that options. You will look at me and say, oh, the man tried. He had exhausted all other options. But the first option is, you know what? We defend the state. We kill whoever opposes us. No, you can't run. You shouldn't run a country that way. But like I said, end bad governance, who are detained for weeks, what will happen after that? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Nobody will be engaged. Nobody will be saying, you shouldn't have done that. Nobody. We just move on to the next.
Well, let's move on to the next question, Barrister Tunde Esan. Let's analyze the response to public criticism regarding human rights violation by security agents. Now we are in a very digital era, right? People take to social media to call out the inadequacies of security agents, and sometimes the response of the force can either de-escalate or exacerbate the issue. We have individuals now that can make videos that post it on his PRO in Lagos, for example, Benjamin Hundeyi, who has been very, very proactive. At the minute a video is on social media and it's getting reactions of any security agent that has done something that is questionable, he immediately gets on it and investigation begins. But people are supposed to call the police when they are afraid, but now people are afraid to call the police. So how do community perception of security agents sort of influence the relationship that is between the security agent and the people? And what kind of influence does it have on their adherence to human rights standard? And this is me asking, we have security agents who know that people are afraid of them. What kind of notion do you think this has built in the minds of these security agents, and what kind of influence does this have on the way they administer their responsibility and how they adhere to human rights whilst administering their duties?
So the average police officer is over the age of 26. I'm not talking of the recent graduate. So it's not Gen there's a name they call it Gen Z. No, it's not Gen Z.
Right.
It's coming from the old school. It's dealing with a new world that is not trained to deal with. It's dealing with a new. Don't forget that if you go back to your native police and all of that, the essence of the police was to protect the oppressors, to protect the government and all of that. They were never set up to protect the citizens. They were to maintain law and order by force. I mean, all your native constabulary and all of that set up by the British. They were not to protect the citizens. So if you go into the mind of the average police officer, all he wants to do is to oppress. He thinks that he has a gun. Because he has a gun, he must be obeyed. He doesn't understand the meaning of, and that's why you give to people like Udeni, you give it to the area guy at the center, Mayo Muyiwa, someone. You may like them, you may not at their job. You may like or you may not like them, but there's a lot of engagement. There's a lot of engagement. Some of the engagement, you're like, what's wrong with this guy? But there's an engagement all the same. And that's what they need to do, because the police is not your friend. The police is not your friend. And it's not just that we're mousing it. I see young people who develop, is it PTSD or PSTD or whatever, whatever that thing is called. If they're driving and to see a police checkpoint, if they can turn, they turn. They would rather go and take a longer route. They develop the sense of, this is trouble. Like you said, you used the word earlier on about profiling. A young boy, I mean, we were young. When I was young, I was doing Grace Jones. You remember there was this thing called Grace? Every generation,
the haircut.
Every generation had to be young. You're young anyway. You're going to do what young people do. But now when you see a boy with dreadlocks or whatever it is that they do now, they automatically, oh, look at him like Yahoo.
Fraudster.
It's just, how can you profile it? But young people will be young people. You outgrow all of that and you go to the next thing. But why don't you just let them enjoy that process? How do young people all over the world be? Nothing is sacred. I mean, a young boy of 20 has intimate relationship with his girlfriend. It's not. They can snap it and upload it. Yeah, it's the way it is right now. They will outgrow that state. So you're looking at a police officer. They will snap you. They will upload you. And the next thing, everybody's getting angry. No, you can't snap. Why can't you snap the police officer? What part of the law says that you can't snap him if he's doing something silly? He's performing a public duty. So I can press my camera on him or watch him perform the public duty, right or wrong, and post it online. You can't come after me and say, oh, because another thing is happening. Again, in 1984, cast your mind back, you had Decree 2 and Decree 4. Yeah? Hello, are you there?
Yes, we're with you. Go ahead, sir.
I said you had Decree 2 and Decree 4 under the Buhari regime, as a military head of state. And the essence basically was to Irabo and Tunde Thompson. They were detained under those seniors. The essence was to kill journalism, freedom of expression, and all that. And if you're not careful, what is going on right now is that is being introduced by stealth. Because what we've done is not to criminalize what should be libelous. If I say something silly, if I publish something silly about you, in the past it used to be, oh, you sue me for 100 billion for libel. But right now, it's being criminalized. Oh, it is criminal defamation.
No,
and the
Cybercrime Act, it was very controversial.
What I'm saying.
Yeah.
How did you get that into? Because what they did, because I had friends when the Cybercrime Act was going to be passed into law. I had friends who challenged some of the provisions to say, no, you can't. What you're doing is that you're criminalizing libel. And if you do that, what you want to do is to shut up the capacity. People are going to say silly things. But be patient enough to work out the libel laws to make them not say. But right now, people are even afraid to talk because they don't know what happens next. Somebody says, if you're following the social media, there's a particular artist who was accused of killing someone. He's going to pick up the fellow artist who said he killed someone, and the guy has been in detention for 5 days.
Yes.
See, you in the entertainment sector, they're going to say all these silly things against one another. It's just the way it is. But if you feel so strongly about it, so the guy for libel. Because what you are doing what you're doing is that you can hide anything under your cybercrime act. Anything it can cover anything. I mean, there's a case of a guy on Twitter who is very popular, Pedo. He's been in detention for how many days? Oh, leaking of official secrets and all of that. Come on, investigate what you want to, but don't create a sense of fear, because that's where we're going to. We're now beginning to create a sense of fear amongst young people who are the majority users of social media, to say, be careful what you say. If not, I'll pick you up, I'll lock you up, rather than I will take you through the process of libel. So we're not even doing anything to de-escalate. We're just creating this atmosphere of fear. We will oppress you. We show you that we are government. We show you that we're in control. Instead of saying that, well, government really encompasses everybody. From the government to the government, we make up the government. But no, we are in charge. We're in charge, and we let you know that we're in charge. And nothing is getting better. Of course, I give kudos to the police officers who are doing well. Yeah. They were trying to get, people like the guy who was in Lagos before, who's not a DIG, Frank Mba. These are enlightened officers, but just like drop in the ocean. When you tie your red armband and you go to the street with, you say, we'll show you can't protect. What signal are you sending? If I'm in trouble at night and I see a police vehicle, I probably won't go to them, because I don't know if they're going to compound my problem instead of solving it. I don't see them as friends, and I don't see them doing enough to show that truly the police is your friend.
Pastor Tunde, in about 6 minutes, we'll be due for a commercial break, but we will come back right after the break. But let's take advantage of the time that we still have to answer a few more questions before we take that break. Now, no matter how functional a system is, there will always be saboteurs. The bad eggs are inevitable. Sadly, the bad ones have overshadowed the good ones, but it's necessary to create some sort of open channel so that people can bring to the fore the shortcomings of these bad eggs. But within the security system, you might disagree with me. There's this belief that brother must protect brother. They would cover for their badly behaved colleagues. So what are the processes that should be immediately initiated or instituted when people report erring officers for rights violation?
What I would just say today is that leave whatever you've learned, leave whatever the books provide for. You know what? Call them out on social media. Write to the topmost guy. Go to the DPO. But the DPO is probably the guy who has sent the guy on an errand in the first instance. So by some step, he may just be culpable. But when you call them out on social media, they seem to respond better to that nowadays. Right. Write letters, write mails to the IG, write mails to the AIG, write mails to the CIG, write mails to everybody on this matter. Do not keep quiet about it. Because if you want to follow the official channel, maybe your complaint will even go beyond the desk of the DPO in that particular police station. Call them out. Call them out. Don't be quiet. Call them. And you know what? Nothing will happen to you. Nothing will happen to you. Because if you have a large number of people calling people out, especially people in the various forces, maybe the military, the police, and all of that. If you have a large number of young people calling them out, maybe we may just have a change. Because like you said, whether brother protects brother, right?
Right.
Yeah, the guy at the police station who is at a lucrative spot, who sent him there in the first instance, he makes his returns, doesn't he? Doesn't he? Yeah?
Well,
call them out. Call them out, write to the IO. But I've had encounters with police officers, and consistently what I see is that most of them are just, sorry, and let me just retract my word, I haven't used it, but most of them do not want matters escalated beyond their local police station. So escalate beyond their station.
But then, Barrister, there seems like, or it seems, I beg your pardon, that people do not even know their fundamental human rights. And I think that's where we should have even started the conversation from.
I can tell you for free that they don't.
Because you mentioned you're going on the street, a policeman stops you and starts to search you. You don't have any right whatsoever to search me unless you have credible intelligence that I am a danger to myself or to my immediate environment. You're not allowed to go through my device. No. Again, unless you have credible intelligence. You cannot break into my house unless, of course, you have a warrant. Yes. But these things happen, and you see people begging the police officer, oh, please, and your rights are being violated. You are the victim here. But then people do not even understand that they're being victimized. How can we educate people of their fundamental human rights?
Maybe we'll go back to the article part of your coming back after the break. I don't know, but if we're not, what I would just say to you is that people are scared. It's about impunity. It's like if you die, nothing will happen. As long as that feeling persists, even when people know they're right, they pull back a bit and say, so what does it matter? Do you get what I'm saying?
Right.
It goes back to our first conversation. There's lack of consequences, this culture of impunity. More like if I'm killed by this police officer who is wielding a gun, it takes just a bullet, take a life, just a bullet. He knows, that victim knows that although I'm on my right, but if it escalates, nothing will happen now. If this guy kills me, nothing will happen. So he pulls back on that. But like you said, maybe the first thing is, okay, there's a chapter in the Constitution from 33 to 46 that talks about the fact that you even have rights. Maybe the first thing is to have a lot of publicity, a lot of enlightenment on the fact that whether you want to insist on this right or not, but they're your rights anyway. What you want to do with the right, maybe that's your problem. But even be aware that you have a right to life, you have a right to privacy, you have a right to associate, you have a right to freedom from degrading and inhuman treatment, you have a right to this, you have a right to property, you have a right to have your meal protected, and on and on and on like that. Maybe we should let people know what these rights are and imprint into their heads, right from primary school, to all spheres of life.
Barrister, even some of us are enablers, and this is real life scenarios where a person comes on social media to say, I was searched unjustly, a security operative came into my car, detained me, went through my phone, and then you see people saying, and why didn't you just let him check it? If you had nothing to hide, why were you fighting back? You should have just let him check it. And then you're wondering,
we're broken
what do you
people.
mean?
My sister, we're broken people.
Right.
We're broken. We're really broken. People don't know the essence of how broken we are. When we just we are broken. I mean, we go to church to give thanks for buying a 10-year-old car, don't we?
I mean, it's appreciation.
We are broken. It's a lot of work to be done. And what we are doing as those in power is that we're now the ones in power. We're the elite, and we've taken on the garb of the oppressors. And we show them. So that's why you see a random guy who sort of what you do not know has 50 police escorts going nowhere. He too wants to feel that sense of oppression. Growing up, he saw people oppress other people, and he say, "This is my car." You see, I won't call it in full. D. There's a name. D. First car D1, D2, D3. No, I didn't feel the gap saying, but you know what I'm talking about. And you see a 50-year-old dressing like somebody suffering from arrested development, like a 14-year-old teenager. It's all part of how broken we all are. That's the truth. That's the truth. We're broken. There's a lot of work to be done. And that is one of the work you're doing right now. Having this interview with me, with a lot of other people to say, okay, but you know what, guys? You have the right. Let's even start. Because somebody will say, oh, I have the right to life. Nobody can just take my life like that.
Right.
I have the right to own property. Nobody can deprive. I have the right to hold the phone, and you can't take the phone without a warrant. I have the right to move at any time of the day, whether it's 2 a.m. and nobody can arrest me for wandering. I have that right. You'll be surprised that, like you said, that the number of people who do not even know that they have all these basic and fundamental rights protected by the ground of the number one law in the country, the Constitution.
Well, I did say that we have to take a break. Well, we are due for that break. We're still having conversations around the principles of security operations and human rights in Nigeria. Barrister Tᴜɪᴜ has been talking to us for over an hour now. He's a legal practitioner and founding partner at ᴜᴜ Practice. We're about to take the headline news. After the news, a few commercial breaks, and then we come back and round off the conversation with the barrister. Don't go anywhere. It is the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
This is Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
When the airwaves in your market become more and more crowded. It's time to break it open and really stand out. Broken Air is here.
On Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
Headline news on 98.3 Mainland FM.
Good evening. Headline news on Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Omobola Sandra. Atiku berates Tinubu for banning under 18 candidates from writing WAEC and NECO exams. Nigerian Chief of Defense Staff Musa meets Nigerian counterpart amid ECOWAS withdrawal crisis. IMF urges Nigeria to sustain economic reforms, says 6.4% growth achievable through regulatory reforms. On the foreign scene, 11 Palestinians killed in Israeli military operation across West Bank. Protests across Canada, 70,000 foreign students face deportation. In sports, Olympians Ochonogo and Eyakwebwoyan set for record-breaking final performances at World Under-20 Championships. That's the headline news on Mainland FM. Details at 5:30.
You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't you hate it when you're waiting for a song and an ad pops up? Well, we've got you with Flexa Bundle from MTN. You can listen to over 100 million songs ad-free on Apple Music. Yeah, you heard right. Just dial *305*8# and enjoy a whole 1 month of Apple Music and 1 gigabyte of data for just 1,750 naira airtime. Remember, *305*8# to enjoy Flexa Bundle from MTN. And guess what? Flexa Bundle works on both iOS and Android. So, whether you are rocking an iPhone or an Android phone, you are good to go. MTN, what are you doing today?
Looking for ways to save your data? It starts with your apps. Deleting unused apps helps, but there is more. Most apps have data saver modes. Activate them to control data usage. You can also go to settings to turn off auto updates. Lastly, close unused apps to save data when you ain't using your apps. These changes can make a big difference. For more information, visit your mobile operator's website or consumer.ncc.gov.ng for more helpful tips. Stay connected and enjoy smarter data usage. This message is brought to you by the Association of Telecom Operators and Nigerian Communications Commission.
To cook correct food, they always give me joy. That's why anytime when they cook like this, I dey always season them with no cubes. Come add correct vegetables inside. Ugu, tatashe, shombo, onions. No one I know they put. Now he make my pikin them. They always enjoy my cooking.
Daddy, I never will. I want more.
You summer all your food with correct vegetables. Come season them with no cubes. For that to get delicious taste. Today, chop better.
Don't you hate it when you're waiting for a song and an ad pops up? Well, we've got you with Flexa Bundle from MTN. You can listen to over 100 million songs ad-free on Apple Music. Yeah, you heard right. Just dial *305*8# and enjoy a whole 1 month of Apple Music and 1 gigabyte of data for just 1,750 naira airtime. Remember, *305*8# to enjoy Flexa Bundle from MTN. And guess what? Flexa Bundle works on both iOS and Android. So, whether you are rocking an iPhone or an Android phone, you are good to go. MTN, what are you doing today?
What takes a plate of jollof rice to the next level of goodness? Is it when it is cooked with non-seasoning cubes for that sumptuous taste? Or when you serve it with correct Nigerian salad, cabbage, carrot, lettuce, and a bit of kidney beans?
It's both. Season your jollof with the rich taste of Knorr cubes and serve with plenty of vegetables. So, go ahead and elevate your meals. Today, eat for good.
Don't you hate it when you're waiting for a song and an ad pops up? Well, we've got you with Flexa Bundle from MTN. You can listen to over 100 million songs ad-free on Apple Music. Yeah, you heard right. Just dial *305*8# and enjoy a whole 1 month of Apple Music and 1 gigabyte of data for just 1,750 naira airtime. Remember, *305*8# to enjoy Flexa Bundle from MTN. And guess what? Flexa Bundle works on both iOS and Android. So, whether you are rocking an iPhone or an Android phone, you are good to go. MTN, what are you doing today?
Looking for ways to save your data? It starts with your apps. Deleting unused apps helps, but there is more. Most apps have data saver modes. Activate them to control data usage. You can also go to settings to turn off auto updates. Lastly, close unused apps to save data when you ain't using your apps. These changes can make a big difference. For more information, visit your mobile operator's website or consumer.ncc.gov.ng for more helpful tips. Stay connected and enjoy smarter data usage. This message is brought to you by the Association of Telecom Operators and Nigerian Communications Commission.
Meals have a way of taking us on a journey, and when you add plenty of vegetables like efo, ugu, and season with the rich taste of Knorr seasoning cubes, even better.
So, go ahead and elevate your meals with more vegetables and the rich taste of Knorr cubes. Today, eat for good.
You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM.
Things seems anxious and uncertain. I understand the hardship you face. I wish there were other ways, but there is not. If there were,
in our quest to bring to the table issue-based conversation around nationhood and development, we have made 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday the perfect time to welcome you into the Situation Room as we continue to build the narrative about public service and accountability.
Mr. President, this Senate needs to know. Mr. President, this Senate needs to lend its voice to the plight of these people. Mr. President, there is nowhere I can say it except here. This is why I'm elected. If I cannot say these things on this floor, sir, I better resign and leave.
As elections give the citizens the chance to make their political decisions, constant demand for quality leadership from those they voted into office.
Look at us now, there's nothing, we are starving. Tinubu should please do something.
It's also important to having a Nigeria of everyone's dream. Join ᴏᴜᴜᴜ as it takes to task seasoned analysts, opinion makers, business professionals, and politicians on issues around politics, policies, governance, and leadership every Monday to Friday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. on your super dial, Mainland 98.3 FM. We'll welcome you, roommates, as we discuss the situations.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is still the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. We've been having a conversation here about reviewing the principles of security operations and human rights in Nigeria. How can we do one without interfering or disregarding the other? Barrister Tunde Eson is with us in the studio, and we've had quite a very interesting conversation. If you missed the conversation, you have nothing to fear, as every single thing we do on radio is documented on our social media platforms. So you can go to Facebook, you can go to YouTube at Mainland 98.3 FM, which is our handle, and then just search for, using the date, of course, today being the 28th day in the month of August. Just check through the dates and you would see this particular episode on our Facebook page. You can rewatch as many times as possible. You can even engage with other commenters using the live chat option and continue the conversation on social media, so you never miss a conversation that happens on air. But then to the conversation, Barrister Tunde Eson has been able to answer the bulk of the questions that we've had this evening, starting by more like highlighting the core responsibility of security agents, how we can operate within the framework that sort of considers the rights of individuals, their crisis management skills, amongst many other things, also balancing national security and human rights, the impact of social media on the accountability of security officials in relation to human rights. one of the few or many of the few conversations that we've had over the course of the hour. Well, we're about to round off conversations so that we can open the phone lines and also give you an opportunity to engage with Barrister Tunde Eson if there are fresh perspectives you would like us to look at in the 20 minutes that is left of the program. Barrister Tunde, thank you so much for being on standby. We appreciate you for your time.
Thank you.
Yes. So, like I said, we're rounding off conversation so we can take opinion. My final question, really, and also to get your final take on this conversation is, what can we do to repair the relationship between security agents and the people? And I say this because I understand that it is very hurtful for security agents who do their jobs diligently, who do their jobs dexterously, who do not participate in any form of human rights violation, now seeing their good work soiled because it is the activities of the bad ones that proliferate popular media. So what are the ways that we can repair the depreciating relationship between security agents and the people such that they can carry out their responsibility without being considered an enemy of the people?
Thank you again for the question. Let me start by repeating what you said. People place their lives on the line for citizens of this country, whether the armed forces or the paramilitary forces like the police. Day in, day out, they go out, they don't know if they're going to come back, all in the line of duty. In the ordinary course of life, they should be appreciated. And like you said, it's one bad apple falling the whole bunch. And that's the way it is. The authorities themselves, at all levels, the armed forces, the paramilitary forces, must make it a point of duty to ensure that within their ranks, officers who want to destroy and tarnish their image are dealt with. You know, impression matters. There was a phrase that he used, brother protecting brother, something like that. If the people think that, oh, it doesn't matter what these people do, they'll be protected by the higher up, that creates a problem. When people do the wrong thing, they must be made what you call public spectacle. The forces themselves must make it clear that we do not condone this. This do not represent us. And the more of that we have, the more then people begin to say, oh, these are bad apples. This does not speak or does not represent the organization itself. It's not what they condone. That's the first. Number two, there must be training and retraining. Because what you are doing is that you are in possession of firearms that can take life, that are instruments of fear, and you're dealing with defenseless public. You need to break that barrier of fear. You need to know, they need to be trained that the guns that you carry, they're not meant to kill, but to protect the citizens. The police must necessarily become your friend. But that will come from a place of training, a place of reorientation. And where that is not successfully done, there are so many organizations that can engage the police to protect the rights of the helpless citizens. Take lawyers, for instance. What does the NBA do? We're having our conference right now. What's the essence of the conference? To appoint a new president, to appoint a new secretary. Is that what lawyers do? We are referred to as ministers in the temple of justice. That's what we are as lawyers. Can the NBA become proactive, concerning the protection of the rights of the citizens? Can we do more? Can we do more? Can the justice system itself, including the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, the High Court and the lower one, what we call the Magistrate Court, can they take a more lenient views on? Now, if take for instance, if the punishment for an offense is 500 naira, why do you want to make the terms onerous? Why do you want to make it difficult for me to fulfill? What are you trying to achieve? Can we have more, even the convicts themselves, can we have more community services instead of just loading everybody up to the prison? Can we have term limits, like a term limit for dealing with some certain offenses, some very basic misdemeanors, for instance? Can we say, okay, whatever, if it comes before my court, within 2 cities, I'm going to dispose of. What it's all about. And when you find this guy guilty, can you sentence him to go and clean, K2 market for 2-3 days? Why do you want to load the correctional facilities with somebody who stole a pot of rice because he was hungry? Can we all as stakeholders, can you as a journalist, for instance, can you do more of what you're doing right now? Make so much noise about this. Can we as individuals, can we begin to talk more, talk more? And like you said, somebody has been assaulted. Can we be humane enough not to make light of it, not to make joke of it, not to turn it to cruise, not to turn it to banter? Can we all rise to condemn what is wrong? So it's a responsibility that cuts across board. But like you said, maybe the first place is for the lawyers and for those of you who have access to the public to begin to tell the people themselves, do you know you have the right to life and nobody has the right to take that right away from you unless in these circumstances? Do you know that you have the right not to be subject to degrading and inhuman treatment? Do you know you have the right to privacy? Do you know you have the right to associate? Do you know you have the right to freedom of expression, freedom of movement, that you have the right to your liberty? Do you know this stuff? So people begin to say, okay, I do. And then those of us who are, maybe by training, who have the capacity to support this right when they're insane, can we play more active roles? You have over 100,000 lawyers in this country. Even if it's just 40,000 practicing, if we take 10 pro bono cases, multiply that by whatever, it sends a message that as a watchdog that we care. So it's all hands on deck.
Well, let's open the phone lines and hear what people have to say. 0913-6000-410. That is the phone line. If you'd like to send a text message or a WhatsApp message, maybe because the phones are jammed, you can do so via the number 0913-6000-430. We're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. Take advantage of the live chat option to send your contributions in real time. Let's take our first phone call for the day. Please, it's 1 minute for today so we can take as many calls as possible. All right. Hello. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm well, thank you. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Yeah, Ambassador Musba here.
Welcome. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, barrister. Good evening.
Afternoon. Good evening, Leonard Council.
Yeah, so me, you see, Sage.
Yes.
The vice said it. He said, we are broken. I want to accept that from him. But, I want to know one thing, that the society has to blame for all this. So I don't know what will happen here. We talk about, don't all tell me right is, no right is absolutely. It's like, look, people, even landlords, we oppress each tenant to the last. We all oppress ourselves. Those who are there at the government right now, if they're out, someone at the street now become government today, they will do the same thing. How do we solve this issue? How do we solve this problem? Is what I'm talking about. How do we solve it? The problem is everywhere. Ordinary man in the street, it will oppress everybody in the street. Supposing, look, it's a greater problem. How do we solve this problem? Our hands must be on deck. How should I be better? All hands must be on deck. We have to come together and solve this issue.
Thank you.
Those are not government today.
Thank you.
Who else are here?
Thank you so much. Please remember it's 1 minute so we can take many calls. I apologize. I know usually I allow you 2 minutes, but please let's work together today. 1 minute for each person. Thank you so much for understanding. Hello. Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening. My name is Steven.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm calling from Ikeja.
All right, go ahead.
I just tuning now. I had a program with the barrister. But I think there's a report I want to keep. I don't know. I'm sorry, maybe I'm debating from the topic of God. Because the thing is really eating up people here. At Ikeja bus stop, ᴜᴜᴜ Street, from General Hospital down to... Are you with me?
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, from General Hospital down to Underbridge Ikeja, Awolowo. Many boys are there opening people's bags, collecting people's phones, both day and night, in the morning, I'm talking to you now, I am in ᴜᴜᴜ Street. And this thing is happening, and we have area else here, we have WHOBA police station here, and nothing is being done. Police people are working out and down, holding people that are not doing anything. And these criminals are here opening people's bags, and when you talk, they will try to molest you and do. And you see that now policemen, postmen, they are passing freely, and these boys are doing this thing freely, and nobody is holding them. I don't know what kind of society we are in. I don't know what we are going through in this country. People will be coming back from work, carrying their bag at their back. Then at the end of the day, when they get home, they will not find their phones. They will not find their items in the bag. This is what is going on. As I'm talking to you now, it's going on now. Not next, now.
Thank you so much for calling. We appreciate you. I hope that the security agencies are hearing this. I would like to assume that somebody within the security structure is listening, and immediately something will be done about that. Thank you so much for bringing that to our hearing. Of course, a community report is something that we always encourage on the station. Let's take more phone calls. Hello. Hello. Hello, you're live. All right, you might need to call us back. 0913-6000410 is the number to call. WhatsApp text message 0913-6000430. Please allow me to take the few WhatsApp Facebook messages that we've gotten. Pardon me. We have a few messages on Facebook. Benjamin Ise on Facebook says, "Good evening, Sage. As far as Nigeria is concerned, there is nothing like human rights practice. It only exists on paper. The security agencies in Nigeria that are paid with Nigerian taxpayers' money think they are employed to secure only the politicians and the big men and women in Nigeria. That is why they abuse human rights the way they are doing. Most of our security agencies don't even know the difference between military regime and democracy. That's why they're acting as if it's still a military regime. To put an end to this, our constitution must be respected and violation must be punished as a deterrent to others." Benjamin from Shogunle. Thank you so much, Benjamin. Patrick Obiazo with a message on Facebook says, "We live with the erroneous belief in Nigeria that civil liberties are more protected and guaranteed under democracy or civilian government than the military. But the guest is really an example of who feels it, says it the way it is. He's spot on his analysis and submissions." Well, thank you very much. We aim to bring the best to the program. Ʀɪᴜᴜᴜ Thompson says, "Good evening. Even the guest in the capacity of a lawyer for what to eat would have more regard and respect for the elected, the appointed, the rich and the powerful, far more than the relatively poor and helpless in this climb." Well, you don't know him personally. But then you say the poor treatments are not meted out to people like former Governor Yahaya Bello, Abba Kyari, and the rest of them in elected or appointed government offices. Neither is the poor treatment meted out on the rich and powerful in the country. There is no regard for the relatively poor person in Nigeria. The lower ranks of the Nigeria police force are hungry and they have no regards for themselves. So how are they expected to show respect? There is also this problem of one ethnic group weaponizing security against the other ethnic group, or government officials weaponizing security against their long-suffering people that they have captured already. Therefore, the problem is lack of regard, lack of respect for the poor, and the general lack of equality for all Nigerians. And to correct this, there must be regard and respect for all when governments see the ability to feed the teeming population and their strength, and not the ability to feed the elected, the appointed, the rich, and the powerful. Ʀɪᴜᴜᴜ Thompson from Obanikoro with that message on Facebook. Thank you very much for your message. Patrick Obiazo says, "Sage, please visit any police station and argue with them that bail is free, as it is boldly written on the plaques inside their offices. You're just trying to sound academic about this, but you know the reality. Can you imagine yourself quoting such right as you're assuming before a gun-wielding policeman on the street? You can guess what you will get in return. The root of all of this shenanigans by the security agencies and indeed the government is simply a lack of impunity and accountability." All right, thank you very much. We appreciate you. Before I take the next phone call, Barrister Tunde Eson, I feel like it is unfair to talk about this without also highlighting the fact that our security operatives are poorly catered to. A comfortable person will seldom involve themselves in inappropriate behavior. And I understand that, as humans, we are insatiable. But ideally, logically, if a person is properly catered to, it's unlikely that they would dabble into wrongdoing. If you can, in a minute, please, just talk about the fact that even our security agents are not properly taken care of. And sometimes they transfer this aggression to the people.
Now, I'll ask you a question. Are you properly taking care of where you work? The answer is no. The truth about it is that you don't become a beast because you're not well paid. Of course, I'm one of the advocates, for proper remuneration of the police for what they do. They're not properly remunerated. I understand the psychological, burden of that. I do. But even in all of that, you don't become a beast because of that. If you're tired of the work, then walk away from the job. That is not to say that they are properly catered. I mean, go to the barracks. It's a set piece. Anybody from there cannot reason properly. So I see all of that. But while we are fighting to correct all of these evils, if you can, as a police officer, please let your humanity prevail.
All right. Thank you so very much. I appreciate your brevity. Let's take another phone call. Hello. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, please. Yeah, this is from Egbeda.
All right.
Yeah, I had very ugly experience, and my son also had the same with the Nigerian police. He's a 200 level student. He schools in the East. While they were on vacation last semester, he was coming to Lagos. On getting to Onitsha, they were asked to come down from the vehicle the bus they entered, and they were assaulted. They were asked, because I didn't believe my son until he sent me a screenshot of the money he transferred to the policeman account. But the policeman said he will seize his handset and then it will go forever. And he was afraid. This boy was threatened with bond. And so he transferred the money I sent to him that he's supposed to use to reach our home here in Lagos. So he transferred that money. It was when he got to Lagos here, he should send money to him for him to come back home. I said, the one I sent to you, he said he transferred it to the police. And he sent me a screenshot of the transfer he did.
I'm sorry about
that. That's number one.
I'm sorry, we can't take any
That's
more.
Number one.
I'm so sorry. Please bear with me, all right? I would love to listen to you, the entire thing. Our heart goes out to your son, and we hope that he recovers from that ugly experience. But please, let's take our last call for the evening before we call it a wrap for today. Hello.
Good evening, sister.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Malam Bello Usman. I am calling from Idimo.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Your guy spoke very well, but I want to ask him because I don't understand much about the difference between the Nigerian police and the Nigerian judiciary, also the so-called human rights. Because if Nigeria is supposed to be a better place for you and I to live as I speak, it's supposed to start from the Nigerian police and the Nigerian judiciary. I've seen where the Nigerian judiciary have done a very wrong thing, of which my son of 10 years can even. I've seen the judgment where my son can even give exactly who is justified and who is wrong, where Nigerian judiciary have messed it up in this country. Let me start from the time of James Ibori when he was discharged, appointed in this country. We are talking about the human rights.
Thank you so much for calling. Well, thank you so very much. 90 minutes is a conversation that we'll continue to have. Thank you so much today. Thank you for your engagement. We appreciate you. I have to leave now so we can take the full bulletin of the news by 5:30. My name is Sage Babalola. Tomorrow's media platforms on Facebook and YouTube at The Sound of